The summer of 1955 arrived in Millbrook like a promise wrapped in golden sunshine. Maria Castellanos stood at the entrance of the county fair, her best Sunday dress swirling around her knees. The warm breeze carried the scent of cotton candy and caramel apples through the air. At 17, Maria had never felt more alive. Her dark curls bounced as she laughed with her best friend Dorothy, weaving through the crowds of families and young couples. The Ferris wheel towered above them, its colorful lights just beginning to glow in the late afternoon sun. "Let's try the ring toss," Dorothy suggested, tugging Maria's arm. That's when she saw him. He stood behind the booth, tall and lean, with sandy brown hair and eyes the color of autumn chestnuts. When he smiled, Maria's heart performed a peculiar flip. "Care to try your luck?" His voice was warm, friendly. Maria stepped forward, suddenly self-conscious. "How much?" Maria asked, her heart racing. "A nickel for 3 rings," he replied, handing them to her. Their fingers brushed, sending electricity up her arm. She missed all 3 throws, but when he laughed, she found herself laughing too. "I'm Thomas," he said, extending his hand properly this time. "Maria. Well, Maria, would you like to walk around with me when my shift ends? That's in about 10 minutes. She should have said no. She should have waited for Dorothy, but something in his smile made her brave. "I'd like that very much." Neither of them knew that this simple yes would echo through the next 50 years of their lives. As they walked through the fair, laughter and joy surrounded them, weaving a tapestry of memories. They shared stories, dreams, and secrets, each moment deepening their bond. The world around them faded, leaving only the magic of their connection. As the sun set, they promised to meet again, sealing their fate with a kiss. That night, under the stars, they began a love story that would last a lifetime. Years later, Maria would look back at that day, the day her life changed forever. The last letter he wrote to her would always remind her of that summer day. In every word, she felt the warmth of his love, echoing through the years. Their love story was not just a memory. It was a legacy that would live on. And as she closed her eyes, she whispered a silent thank you to the universe for that fateful day. For in the heart of every love story lies the magic of a single moment. The weeks that followed were magic distilled into moments. Thomas worked mornings at his father's hardware store and spent every afternoon with Maria. They walked along Miller's Creek, where willows dipped their branches into the lazy current. They shared ice cream sodas at Rosie's Diner, 2 straws and 1 glass. They lay in the meadow behind the old church, watching clouds transform into dragons and castles and dreams. "What do you want to be?" Maria asked one afternoon, her head resting on his shoulder. "An architect. I want to design buildings that make people feel something. Hope, maybe. Wonder." He turned to look at her. "What about you?" he asked. "A teacher," she said without hesitation. "I want to help children discover that the world is bigger than they imagine." "You'll be wonderful at that." He squeezed her hand. "You make me see things differently. You make everything feel more." They talked about everything, their families, their fears, their dreams for the future. Thomas's father was stern, demanding, with plans for Thomas that didn't include a summer romance. Maria's mother was warm but practical, always reminding her daughter that dreams were lovely, but life required practicality. But when they were together, practicality dissolved. They existed in a bubble where only possibility mattered. On the last day of July, as fireflies began their evening dance, Thomas kissed Maria for the first time beneath the old oak tree at the edge of town. It was gentle and tentative and absolutely perfect. "I love you, Maria," he whispered against her lips. "I love you too," she breathed back. Neither of them saw the storm clouds gathering on their horizon. Under the warm summer sun, Thomas first saw Maria at the park, her laughter like a melody in the air. They spent lazy afternoons together, sharing dreams and secrets, forging a bond that felt unbreakable. As summer approached its end, their feelings blossomed into a love that felt timeless, a treasure they thought would last forever. Moments turned into cherished memories, etched in the fabric of their hearts. Each day a new adventure. Then came the heavy clouds, when life began to intervene, casting shadows over their perfect summer. Thomas received news from his father that would change everything. They are moving to California. pulling him away from the love he cherished. The day arrived with an unbearable heaviness. Thomas stood at Maria's door, uncertainty written all over his face. She noticed his pale face, the red-rimmed eyes, and knew this wasn't just a regular goodbye. They walked in silence to their favorite spot, each heartbeat echoing their unspoken fears. Thomas finally spoke, revealing the news that shattered their world. His father has decided to move his whole family to California. Thomas told Maria that he has to go with his parents. Maria's grip tightened on a tree trunk. The wait of 2 weeks felt like a lifetime. Thomas confessed, "I don't want to go," his voice cracking under the pressure of despair. In the following days, Maria felt like time was slipping, every moment heavy with unspoken words. Weeks passed, filled with wistful memories, as they struggled with the impending distance. The night before he left, they shared a final kiss, sealing their love amid a whirlwind of emotions. With heavy hearts, they bid goodbye, promising to hold onto their dreams of a future together. As the bus pulled away, Maria whispered to the wind, "I will always love you, no matter the distance." And thus, their love became an enduring story, written in the hearts of those who dream.
Maria's heart raced as she penned another letter to Thomas. Her words poured out, each sentence laced with longing and fear. In her heart, Maria questioned, did she say something wrong? Panic twisted her stomach as she sealed the letter, hoping for a reply. Each day brought a new disappointment. The mailbox was an empty promise of hope, leaving her feeling more isolated. Her mother noticed a shift, the worry etched on Maria's face becoming a familiar sight. Motherly love sparked concern. Maria held on to hope, declaring that he wouldn't abandon her. But her mother's words haunted her, echoing doubts. The thought of moving on was unbearable. She penned one last letter, pouring her heart into every line of desperate love. Days turned into weeks as silence settled like a chilling mist. Each passing day exacerbated her anxiety. Her friends, once supportive, started drifting away, unaware of the storm brewing in her heart. Every letter written felt like a plea to the universe, grasping for assurance beneath the weight of despair. Phone calls meant for joy transformed into echoes of longing, filled with the heartache of absence. Her dreams turned dark, haunted by memories of laughter that once echoed, now overshadowed by silence. She stood before the mirror, searching for herself amid the anxiety, wondering if she would ever be whole again. The days grew colder, matching the chill settling deep within her heart. Letters piled high with echoes of unanswered cries. Maria's heart ached at the thought that maybe, just maybe, Thomas had forgotten her. The specter of doubt loomed, a cruel reminder of the distance between them, both physical and emotional. But hope flickered, a tiny flame within her, refusing to be extinguished by despair. A rustle in the wind drew her outside, believing against all odds that a letter might come, carrying his voice. With every sound, her heart raced. Could it be him? But silence returned, heavy and suffocating. With trembling hands, she crafted one final letter, pouring her heart into every word, a love letter that felt like goodbye. Each line echoed a haunting truth. Love is often powerful, yet fragile like glass. Hope faded as uncertainties seeped into her heart, leaving her achingly empty and devoid of assurance. As she sealed it with a kiss, she surrendered her heart, a bittersweet end to a love story never fully realized. The mailbox felt heavier than ever, trembling with unspoken words, and unshed tears waiting for a distant echo. Her heartache lingered, yet she cradled hope in her hands, trusting that love would find its way back someday.
5 years have passed, and Maria stands at the front of her first classroom, nervous but excited. Maria reflects on her journey, thinking about her marriage to Robert, a stable foundation in her life. Her heart doesn't race like it used to. Robert is dependable, real, and she appreciates that. The wedding was lovely. Maria wore her mother's dress, feeling a mix of nostalgia and joy. She recalls the photographs, her genuine smile captured forever, symbolizing her path forward. She had let go of Thomas's memory, viewing it as a necessary closure. Looking toward the future, together with Robert, she envisions their life, dreaming about a home filled with laughter. Their life together feels like a comforting blanket, warm, safe, and embracing. Maria realizes love can manifest in many forms, each unique yet equally profound. She understands that stability doesn't diminish passion, but transforms it into something steadfast. Their shared values resonate deeply, creating a solid bond that supports them. As she teaches her first class, she hopes to inspire her students just as Robert inspires her. Life twists and turns, often presenting unexpected challenges, pushing her to adapt. She embraces these changes, discovering strength within herself she never knew existed. Each experience shapes her, transforming pain into resilience that enhances her character. She learns the importance of vulnerability, appreciating her past as part of her journey. With every lesson she teaches, she acknowledges her own growth, encouraging her students to embrace theirs. Maria stands proud, knowing each moment adds to the rich tapestry of her life. Now, as a mother, Maria cherishes the little moments that make life extraordinary. Each day unfolds like a beautiful page, filled with love, laughter, and hope. As she kisses her daughter goodnight, she feels a profound sense of contentment. She carries both her past and present in her heart, a tapestry of memories shaping her future. Maria inhales deeply, accepting that every chapter is essential for the tale of her life. With a smile, she steps into the world, ready to embrace all that lies ahead. The years blur together in the way they do when life is full. Maria watched her children grow. Graduate Mary. She became a grandmother 4 times over, each grandchild a small miracle that filled her heart with joy. Robert retired from the bank, and they traveled. Nothing too exotic, but they saw the Grand Canyon, visited Washington, D.C., spent a week in Florida. When Robert suffered his first heart attack at 67, Maria discovered reserves of strength she didn't know she possessed. She nursed him through recovery, adjusted their diet, made sure he took his medications. They had 8 more good years together before the second heart attack, the one he didn't survive. At 72, Maria found herself alone. Her children urged her to sell the house, to move into assisted living. She resisted at first, but after she fell and couldn't get up for 2 hours, she reluctantly agreed. Sunset Gardens was nicer than she'd expected. Her small apartment had a view of the garden, and the staff was kind. She made friends with some of the other residents, played cards on Thursday afternoons, attended the weekly movie screenings. But there was a loneliness that no amount of activity could quite fill. Not for Robert, exactly, though she missed him. It was something older, deeper, a question that had never been answered. In California, Thomas was experiencing his own transitions. Patricia had passed away 3 years ago after a brief but brutal fight with cancer. His children worried about him living alone in the big house, but he couldn't bear to leave the place where he'd raised his family. He spent his days working in his garden, reading, occasionally consulting on architectural projects. His daughter, Sarah, visited weekly with her children. His son called every Sunday without fail. It should have been enough. But at 81, Thomas found himself thinking more and more about the past, about a girl with dark curls and a laugh like music, about letters that never reached their destination, about a father's betrayal and the life that could have been. When he was diagnosed with terminal lung cancer, he knew he had to tell the truth, not for himself. It was too late for that. But for Maria, she deserved to know she hadn't been forgotten. He picked up the pen, his hand trembling, as he began to write the words that had been trapped in his heart for decades. In that moment, he felt a sense of peace wash over him, knowing he was finally sharing his truth, and perhaps, just perhaps, it would bring them both the closure they needed. Sarah Henderson Walsh sat in her father's study, sorting through decades of accumulated papers. The cancer had taken Thomas quickly in the end, just 3 months from diagnosis to death. Now she faced the overwhelming task of organizing his affairs, deciding what to keep, what to donate, what to discard. She found the box on a high shelf in his closet, dusty and tied with string. Inside were letters, dozens of them, addressed to someone named Maria Castellano in Millbrook, Ohio, all dated 1955 and 1956. None of them ever mailed. Sarah sank into her father's chair and began reading. Her heart broke with each page as she witnessed her father's young love, his desperation, his gradual acceptance of loss. At the bottom of the box, she found a separate envelope with her name on it. "Dearest Sarah, If you're reading this, I'm gone. I need you to do something for me. Find Maria Castellano. She married someone with the last name starting with H. I heard this through an old friend years ago. She'd be about 79 now, likely still in Millbrook or nearby. Give her the letter I've included. She deserves to know the truth about what happened. I've carried this regret for 50 years. Don't let her carry the same wondering for whatever time she has left. I love you. I was blessed with a good life and a wonderful family, but I need her to know that she was my first love and that I never stopped caring. Sarah wiped her tears and pulled out her laptop. It took 3 days of searching, calling nursing homes and assisted living facilities in the Millbrook area. Finally, a receptionist at Sunset Gardens confirmed they had a resident named Maria Henderson. Henderson, Sarah whispered. H for Henderson. She booked a flight to Ohio that night. As Sarah boarded the plane, her heart raced with anticipation and fear. She thought of her father and the love he had for Maria. Arriving in Millbrook, she felt a mix of hope and anxiety. She drove to Sunset Gardens, her heart pounding. Finally, she stood before Maria's door, letter in hand. With a deep breath, she knocked, ready to change a life forever. The delivery Maria was in the common room when the young woman approached. Mrs. Henderson? Maria Henderson. Maria looked up from her book, confused. The woman was perhaps 50, with kind eyes and dark hair streaked with gray. Yes, can I help you? My name is Sarah Walsh. I have something for you. From my father. May we talk privately? In Maria's small apartment, Sarah explained everything. Who she was, who her father had been, what he discovered about his own father's betrayal. She watched the elderly woman's face cycle through disbelief, shock, anger, and finally, a profound sadness. He never stopped writing. Maria whispered, all these years, I thought he'd forgotten me. He never did. Sarah pulled out the final letter, the one Thomas had written just before he died. He wanted you to have this. Maria's hand shook so badly that Sarah had to help her hold the envelope. Together, they opened it, and Sarah watched as Maria read her father's final words, words of love and regret and hope that Maria had lived a beautiful life. When Maria finished, she was crying, but there was also a strange peace on her face. May I tell you about him? Sarah asked, about the man he became. For the next 2 hours, Sarah shared stories, how Thomas had built a successful career, how he'd been a devoted father and grandfather, how he'd won awards for designing a children's hospital that made sick kids feel brave, how he'd volunteered teaching architectural drawing at the community center. And Maria, in turn, shared her own stories about teaching, about her children and grandchildren, about the good life she'd built with Robert, even as a part of her heart had always belonged to that summer. He would want to know you were happy, Sarah said. I was, Maria said truthfully. Tell me, was he? Yes, he loved my mother. He loved us. But I think a piece of his heart always belonged to you too. They sat in comfortable silence, 2 women connected by a man they'd both loved, mourning what was lost while honoring what had been.
Maria sat by her window, with Thomas's letter pressed to her chest. The moon was full, casting silver light across the gardens. Below, she thought about the weight she'd carried for 50 years, the wondering, the self-doubt, the question of whether she'd been worth remembering. Now she knew. She'd been remembered. She'd been loved. The silence hadn't been abandonment, but circumstance, cruelty, a father's misguided attempt to control his son's future. And Thomas, dear Thomas, had built a good life, just as she had. Neither of them had lived in the past. Both had loved again. Both had created families and careers and meaning. But knowing that they carried each other in their hearts, even across decades and distance, brought a strange comfort. Maria thought about Robert, about the steady love he'd given her, the life they'd built together. She didn't regret her choices. She'd been happy. She'd been loved. Her children and grandchildren were proof that her life had mattered, had been full. But now, finally, she could let go of the weight of unknowing. I forgive you, she whispered to the moonlight, to the memory of Thomas, to the 19-year-old boy who'd done his best. And I forgive myself for moving forward. We both did what we had to do. We both lived. She thought about love then. How it wasn't always singular, wasn't always simple. How you could love more than one person in a lifetime, in different ways, and all of it could be real. How first love leaves an imprint, but it doesn't diminish what comes after. The next morning, Maria called her daughter Catherine and asked her to come visit. When Catherine arrived, Maria showed her the letter, told her the story she'd never shared. "Mom," Catherine said, taking her mother's hand, "did you love Dad?" "Very much," Maria said without hesitation. "Your father gave me a beautiful life." This, she gestured to the letter, this was something else, something that existed in its own space. Both were real. Both mattered. Catherine hugged her mother, understanding in a way only a daughter could. Maria lived for 3 more years. She spent them surrounded by family, teaching her grandchildren card games, attending recitals and graduations. She spoke occasionally about Thomas now, no longer hiding that chapter of her life, but integrating it into her story. When she passed peacefully in her sleep at 82, her children found the letter tucked into her Bible, along with a note. Some loves transcend time. Some connections last forever, even when the people don't. I was blessed to know this kind of love twice in my life, once with wild passion and once with steady devotion. Both shaped me. Both made me who I was. I regret nothing. They buried the letter with her, along with a photo they'd never seen before, a young man and woman at a county fair, laughing into the camera, impossibly young and impossibly happy. And somewhere, in whatever lies beyond, too, souls who'd loved and lost and lived and loved again finally got their dance. Uninterrupted, eternal, complete.